This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
911, what's your emergency?
Something's not right in my neighbor's apartment. He's been yelling at night. This has been going on for over a month. I knocked on the door to try to talk to him, but he never answers. I think someone should come over and take a look.
In my opinion, Alan was suffering from dissociative identity disorder, or paranoid schizophrenia.
This man was in direct contact with the Lord. His journal is the evidence and is as important as any found gospel.
I have no idea what happened in that apartment. What I know is this journal is unlike anything I have ever read, and probably nothing like it again. This journal takes us in his mind as he's unraveling. It's one of the most disturbing books I've ever read.
911, what's your emergency?
I'm scared. I think I need help.
Exonation, what you've been listening to is the trailer for a very interesting, to say the least, book. It's entitled Voices or God, The Journey of Alan Kerrigan. Now, what happened to Alan? Alan's mother clung desperately to the pages of his journal. Isolated by grief, she searched frantically for answers. 7 years have passed since Meredith lost her son, and she has finally begun to heal. With the support of her family and friends, Meredith has found the courage to share what she can only explain as the horror of Alan's descent into madness. Alan's journal will change the view of believers and skeptics alike as readers enter the darkness of Alan's mind and journey with him to his final hours. And this is a direct quote. The journal has been printed as it was found. It is unedited, unfiltered, and reader discretion is advised. The website, www.insidethejournal.com. And joining us this hour to discuss Voices or God, the Journal of Alan Kerrigan, is the publisher, Brent Skolnick. And Brent, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thanks for having me on today. I greatly appreciate it.
Brett, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in this, I don't even know how to classify it. What kind of story is it? You know, this Journal of Madness.
So I met with Alan's mother, Meredith. I first met her over a year now, and we just kind of hit it off, just talking about, life and whatever. Mm-hmm. And we just kept in contact, and then I'd say probably a few months later, after, speaking, more and more frequently, she explained to me what happened to Alan, and she also told me about this journal. So she, sent it over to me, said, take a look. This is really what she's been dealing with for the past 7 years, and it was something that just kind of blew my mind away. It was really fascinating, really, dark and really deep emotions that ran through the pages. And, it touched me. And I said, hey, if there's anything I can do, if you guys decide to publish this book, let me know. I'll help you out in any way possible. And I'm not a publisher, so I just want to, I'm helping them. I'm self-publishing this book with them with the help from Meredith. So she reached back out to me a couple months back and said, this is something she wanted to move forward with. And from there, we kind of just been working together to get this out to the public and for other people to kind of see from a perspective of someone that's journaling about their life and seeing the impact that certain issues can have on someone. You get to see this firsthand, and it's just a fascinating journal. I mean, there's really no other way to describe it except for it's just really jarring, and it really hits you in so many different ways.
All right, Brett, you and I have to take our first break. We'll be right back with our special guest this hour, Brett Skolnick. The website, www.insidethejournal.com. And this hour here on the X-Zone, we're going to be talking about Voices or God, the journal of Alan Kerrigan. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on our broadcast affiliates, broadcast networks, and, of course, various satellite programming distributors around the world. Don't forget, the X-Chronicles newspaper is available for one and all with our compliments at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com. And the still rising count for readers and downloads of the August-September issue, 7 million plus around the world. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, and check out all the great programming we have available for you on the X-Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Is it science or is it magic? Once a magical thing has been scientifically proven, is it no longer magic? Or is magic simply the science of tomorrow? Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, on The Science of Magic, a syndicated radio program dedicated to combining the science and magic of today's dynamic and controversial topics to co-create new solutions. By triangulating information from today's leading experts from the scientific and magical fields, we uncover expansive and evolutionary truths you won't find anywhere else. Join us daily on the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, as I interview and share thoughts with the amazing guests from both science and magic. The resulting knowledge is unprecedented. As a gift to you, the listener, past episodes can be accessed on our website free of charge at thescienceofmagic.net.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back, everyone. We're talking about Voices or God, the Journal of Alan Kerrigan, www.insidethejournal.com. With us is the publisher, Brett Skolnick. Now, Brett, what is the main objective of getting this book out? And how can this book be of help to people?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. So, main objective is to really just give an inside perspective to what so many people deal with on a day-to-day basis when dealing with mental health or struggles of dealing with, their own emotions or dealing with, the norms of society, right? So inside the journal, Alan just really, as you would expect in any journal that's meant specifically for your own eyes, when writing it, wasn't anticipating anyone reading it. You can really see his point of views, his fears, and everything that, he was scared of. And midway through the journal, he starts to hear a voice, which he ends up perceiving to be God. Whether it was God or not, who knows? Alan's no longer here to really kind of talk about that. He never really talked about about it with anyone. Most people that have read the journal, believe that it was some sort of mental health issue. He was having some sort of break, right, or he was slowly developing something that was, taking over his mind, and he wasn't able to cope with it, and nor did he seek assistance to cope with it. So the journal really is just kind of a view on how it can impact somebody and how people, tend to isolate and tend to not reach out to people. And it's more to people that maybe don't necessarily, they're not fully aware of what it is for someone to have, an issue with their mental health, or maybe it's something that's not fully on their conscience. So it's really to, bring it out to the masses that, people are struggling, on a day-to-day basis, and, it could be someone that, you're working with, or it could be a friend, it could be a loved one, or it could be a complete stranger. So we're just kind of showing that, how real it really is, and you can see it through a man who was struggling, and you can see it through his writings.
All right, so let me ask you a few questions here to try and help myself and our listeners get a better grasp of the story behind the story here. For example, how old was Alan at the time of his passing, and did he commit suicide, or did he die of natural causes?
Okay, so Alan, he had committed suicide at the end of the journal. It's very evident that he had committed suicide, unfortunately, and he was in his mid-20s. So it's a span of about, the way that the journal was written, the way he wrote in his journals, nothing was ever dated, so it's just kind of entry 1, 2, 3, etc. So try to really figure out the timeline. It's really hard to say whether it was 12 months, 10 months, 18 months. There are definitely specific entries that he was a Jets fan. So this was during the time when the Jets were in the playoffs and they made it to the AFC Championship game. So you know that specific date because you could go back and be like, all right, when did the Jets play the Chargers or the Colts or whoever they were playing that specific weekend? So you can figure that out, but you really don't really know when the next entry was or when things start to really spiral. How long was it from entry 81 to entry 82? Was that 2 days or was it 2 weeks? So that timeline's kind of difficult to really figure out. But overall, you're looking at about a year's worth, I'd say, of entries.
Now, did Alan live at home with his mother, or did he live at his own home with someone else, or did he live alone?
He lived by himself in New York in his apartment, and he was just a regular guy. He worked full time, hung out, had a bunch of friends, went out to bars, smoked weed, and he was just a normal, everyday guy that you would see on the train going to work and coming back and complaining about work in his journals and stuff, in his writings and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's what he did. I mean, he was just a typical, everyday mid-20s guy, graduated college, nothing really that you would expect. But I think that's kind of, one of the things with, mental health, you don't really expect it. You don't really know. There's really not a face to it or like an exact, this is who you anticipate it to be or the norm. So
I understand that. I understand that. But when it comes to a person who is so deep where they start hearing voices and the aspect of reality is totally altered and they're on their way to committing suicide, how come nobody notices and how come nobody stepped in to help?
Sure. Isolation. 100% isolation. You can see it in the...
But you said he had a lot of friends and that he worked.
Yep, he did, but he also just isolated. He isolated, and you can tell through the writings he continues to isolate. And you see it's less about him hanging out with his friends. He writes about how his boss is getting on him for not showing up to work or his work is lacking. And then, one of the entries he says his boss is saying, hey, he doesn't look very good, you got some bags under your eyes, and, his sleep is being impacted, and he slowly isolates, and he's not returning his mother's calls or her texts or anything like that. And then towards, the end of it, he's writing, I haven't seen my friends. The only one that's seeing me is the delivery driver who's delivering food to me and, the gentleman down at the local corner store that I'm buying cigarettes from, so he really isolates. And he just doesn't talk to anyone. He doesn't return phone calls. So if people are calling, you're not really returning phone calls, but, people would check on him, or he'd send like a quick text like, hey, I'm okay, stuff along those lines. Unfortunately, people have their own lives and, you kind of just drift away, and it's a sad reality.
Sure. But his mother, where did she live? He was in New York City. Where was she?
She was in another part of the state. And he did visit her. There was definitely times that he writes about going home and visiting her. His father had passed away, and he, writes a little bit about his dad in there as well. So he had gone home and visited, and there was a time where he even writes about wanting to tell her about what's going on. But his biggest fear, and I'm sure it would resonate with a lot of people, his biggest fear was just being judged, and being judged by family, friends, or being judged by society. So he really was scared and dealt with that a lot and not feeling comfortable enough in himself to be able to really seek that help, even if it was for, a family mother or, a brother or a sister. He wasn't comfortable because we're not talking about him, having high-end anxiety or, really, really feeling low. We're talking about a man who believed he was hearing God speak to him, right? And it's such a, far-fetched concept, and it's just like, for me, it's like that doesn't really necessarily make sense, but for him, it was real, and this is what he thought. So he wouldn't go to someone and be like, I think I'm hearing voices, because it wasn't that. It was he thought that he was 100% hearing the voice of God, and it wasn't like God was telling him to do anything, or if it wasn't like commands, or, there wasn't a dialogue back and forth. This wasn't, anything religious. It was just based upon some of the stuff that he was hearing. He believed that he was hearing a voice of God, and then for him, he wasn't comfortable enough, and he just was, so insecure, I guess, to be able to come out and have that dialogue with, even if it was just going to seek, professional assistance. Sure. He just couldn't do it, and it's evident because he writes about it, and he writes about how he wants to do it, but he always would kind of go back, what would people think? What would my parents think? Even if my parents believe me, what would people think of my, even my mother believed me, what would they think of my mother? So he struggled with that, very, it's very evident based upon his writings.
Was he an only child?
He was not. He was a brother and a sister.
And what part in this entire story do you believe that his religious upbringing may have played?
Zero. I don't think at all. He was, actually, there's some pretty interesting entries where he's totally anti-organized religion. So this wasn't like he was raised in a ultra, religious household or went to a religious high school or college or anything along those lines. This was quite the opposite. There was actually a pretty interesting entry where he writes, there's people that he's talking about when he's kind of voicing his, frustration at hearing this voice. He says, there's people that pray to you all the time. Why wouldn't you speak to them? I don't even necessarily believe in you. Why are you speaking to me? Like, I don't get it. And, this, you could see. So from a religious standpoint, absolutely nothing. There was nothing there that would, it's a common question. Was he super religious? Could that have been, what he thought he was hearing? But it's the, total opposite in this case.
Stand by, Brett. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. X-Zone Nation, Brett Skolnick is our guest. He is the publisher of Voices or God, the Journal of Alan Kerrigan. www.insidethejournal.com. And this is the X-Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our family of broadcast affiliates right around this great big world of ours. Don't forget, the X-Chronicles newspaper is out and available for one and all at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created nemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
Ancient prophecies, legends, and current events indicate we're entering a high-frequency era supporting enlightenment. During expansive times, old rules fail, necessitating access to the ever-shifting currents of life for guidance. There's an ancient form of shamanism through which we can obtain the information we need. I'm Gwilda Wieka, founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Art School, with a great new provision for those interested in spiritual evolution and personal empowerment. Galactic Shamanism, Art of the Ancients, Key to Tomorrow, is an upcoming series of leading-edge online affordable classes designed to guide and support you and your family during these times of transition. Embrace the magic. Empower your life. Study Galactic Shamanism at findyourpathhome.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
911, what's your emergency?
Something's not right in my neighbor's apartment. He's been yelling at night. This has been going on for over a month. I knocked on the door to try to talk to him, but he never answers. I think someone should come over and take a look.
In my opinion, Alan was suffering from dissociative identity disorder, or paranoid schizophrenia.
This man was in direct contact with the Lord. His journal is the evidence and is as important as any found gospel.
I have no idea what happened in that apartment. What I know is this journal is unlike anything I have ever read, and probably nothing like it again. This journal takes us in his mind as he's unraveling. It's one of the most disturbing books I've ever read.
911, what's your emergency?
I'm scared. I think I need help.
All right, Exonation. The name of the book is Voices or God, the Journal of Alan Kerrigan. The website is www.insidethejournal.com. With us this hour is Brett Skolnick. He is the publisher. And Brett, in the trailer that we just played, there's the 911 operator. There's a clip of somebody saying that they're a neighbor in the apartment. This person is yelling. he tries to go over and see what's going on. He doesn't answer the door, and then towards the end of the clip, you have someone I would imagine who is representing themselves to be Alan, who's calling up 911 asking for help. Did he ever get any help from the 911 calls that were made?
No, he didn't. Unfortunately, for the trailer, that's kind of like we were trying to give a full explanation of what was going on. And so Alan actually never did call 911 and seek out for help. Like he just didn't. So, we kind of really, when we were creating the trailer, the video, we really wanted to kind of give a full sense of, something's going on in the apartment, couple of people who have read the journal, what their thoughts are, and then here is this a voice of someone who in this case would be Alan, and how shaken he was looking for the assistance. And it was kind of an asking for help, but unfortunately those calls never did exist, and he never sought help in any way at all.
But doesn't that open up a door to question whether, based on the fact that you just said that there were never any 911 calls, basically the trailer was put together to show the significance of what are found in the pages, which, according to the tag here, the journal has been printed as it was found. It is unedited, unfiltered, and the reader's discretion is advised. So doesn't this contradict that?
Yeah, I could see, how you could, how you could see that, but we don't have, audio of Alan or.
I understand. I understand you don't have the audio of Alan, but to say 911 calls were made, and there were no 911 calls made.
Yeah, no, again, we're just trying to show the whole snapshot of what was going on in the apartment, what people would read and what their thoughts would be, and then, kind of the only way we could show, explain how Alan would be nervous looking for assistance would be able to kind of go back into the 911 call. There's no other way to show him looking for assistance unless, not even looking for assistance, looking to express how scared he was.
Yeah.
I understand your question, so it's a valid point.
You see, I'm coming to you from this side. I used to be a policeman. 911 calls are a priority in any law enforcement agency. So to hear in a clip, based on the premise that the clip actually represents the reality of the book, that 911 calls were made by neighbors, a 911 call was made by Alan, and just to find out that, there was no help, and then the question is asked, well, what happened with the 911 calls? And they weren't there. I just find that rather confusing.
Yeah, I completely understand.
Okay.
Yeah, your point of view, 100%.
Okay, so what did you find most intriguing about the journal then?
Really, just the realness and the rawness in there. I don't know about yourself. I'm not a person who journals. I don't really write everything that kind of goes through my mind, whatever, good day, bad day, or whatever's on my mind. So to kind of get that perspective of an individual who's writing about their life experiences and kind of seeing from that point of view, that's kind of what the most fascinating thing is. And then also at the same time, there's just the opinions and the emotion and then the way things transpire through the pages, and then going into dark areas of someone's life and really seeing that. It's just that whole thing coming together right in front of you is just fascinating.
So would you say that the journal was a window into the life of Alan Kerrigan?
Yeah, I would. Absolutely. For that time, right? Because, as we grow older and, likes and dislikes as a teenager than someone that's, 20, 30, 40, however long, things change. So at that point in time, it's giving you a snapshot of where he was at in his life. I don't want to say this is who he was or who he would have continued to be, but at that point in time, what was going through his mind, absolutely.
Another question I have is the question of why, if the son did not return the calls to the mother, why the mother didn't do something about it, why she didn't seek help, why she didn't go to the authorities or go to a neighbor, go to a friend and find out what the heck was going on.
Yeah, so she definitely, there was, again, not full communication. Like, she would reach out to him, and then maybe he would just say, hey, I got your message. So there wasn't, a complete, it wasn't like 6 months. Like, obviously, if it was like 6 months of no communication, somebody, or even, 3 months, someone would definitely reach out, and that ultimately ends what happens. There is no communication, and then, the neighbors hear something, contact the police, and then that's kind of how Alan is found. But, there was still limited communication, but it wasn't something to the fact where, like, there was one entry where he says, I just spoke with my mother today. She knows something's wrong. She knows something. I know she knows something's wrong. She kept asking me, but I kind of just tell her, no, everything's okay. And, you can relate to that because I'm sure there's been times someone's been like, oh, everything all right?
Well, of course.
Like you're having a bad day. And you're like, no, everything's fine. So it's easy to play off, especially whether it's through text or through phone conversations. So I don't want to be like it's was months upon months of no communication.
Right.
It was just very little communication and very much yes, no, thanks type of communication.
The fact that this journal was only read and discovered after Alan passed, how can the journaling that are being done by people who are not passed yet and who expect the right to privacy, how can this journal help people to better understand those people who are journaling?
I'm not quite following. Can you just repeat that one more
sure.
time?
Okay.
Make sure.
Okay. As I see it, the reason why this book was written is to tell Alan's story so that it can be a lesson to others, right? Okay. So since journaling is very private, it's, diary. It's the old diary. Journaling is a word that has been brought up ever since the social media. People don't make their diaries private or their journals, public, or their journals public. So how can telling Alan's story help anybody else out there?
Okay, gotcha. Totally. So, again, what we're trying to do by releasing the journal is two things. Show that what can really happen when you're isolated and you're really not seeking any type of assistance, and, gets you into the mind of somebody who's really struggling. And for somebody who, again, is dealing with something similar or like this is completely foreign to them and they're not really even thinking about it, just kind of, begin to at least get things churning in your mind to be like, all right, there are people that are struggling, that are dealing with stuff, and kind of get that topic of conversation brought up. And then also, one of the other things we wanted to do is with the journal being released, we are donating a percentage of the proceeds to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which is AFSP. And so we wanted to help also raise support for great foundations that are helping people that are struggling that, Alan didn't necessarily seek, assistance for. That's kind of the idea behind it, begin, more, not even begin, just, continue on, better understanding of mental health and how it impacts so many people that are struggling with their mental health, as well as how many people deliberate or, go through with suicide, and then trying to raise awareness into that and support into that by donating proceeds for that cause as well.
But isn't it also well known that the people who need the the mental health very rarely know that they do, and they're the first people to deny that they need any help at all?
Absolutely, 100%. And in Alan's case, that was absolutely it. So yeah, and it's hard, right? It's hard for someone to come to grips with their reality and say, all right, something's off here a little bit, and maybe I should seek some assistance. So even if the journal kind of resonates with someone that maybe something is going on, that they're able to then seek help, or maybe someone that might think they're a loved one or a friend or someone, they're kind of been isolating a little bit more, and that just kind of sparks something in them that they never even thought, and maybe opens up a dialogue with them. So there's so many different things and variables that happen that this could potentially help, or, it might just be read as just as a journal from, a gentleman who experienced some serious traumatic events in his life, and you take it at face value. So it's really up to whoever is reading it what they're going to get out of it.
What were some of the traumatic events in Alan's life that you believe may have pointed him in the direction of his final demise?
So he talks about the passing of his father, and his father passed from cancer, and he talks about that in great detail from the standpoint of not really how much it impacted him, but how his father was when going through his cancer and through his treatment, and how he saw his father deal with it, and not really necessarily the way Alan thought or wished he would. So definitely there's some of that is in there that he talks about. He also talks about 9/11 as well, in a pretty lengthy entry. So those are like some big things that he talks about. And then there's this other little opinionated ideas that he has with whether it's social media. He wasn't necessarily a big fan of that, or, just kind of how he felt a lot of people were materialistic, and he didn't quite understand everything that was going on in society. So he was definitely confused about that. But then at the same time, there would be entries that he was just talking about, I just went out last night with my buddies, went down to the bar and hung out all night, and, I'm getting ready for, the football game, and watch the Rangers play. So there's a lot of, it's not all dark and, misery. There's a lot of stuff in there that, he reminisces about how much he misses his childhood and how much he liked it, or, type of music, and when he first heard, like, the Beatles, or, he was into hip-hop as well, and he talked about, that music as well. So there was a lot of other things that he would reminisce that would show, how much he did and, enjoy his life up to that point. So it was a kind of pretty decent balance on that for the first half, and then as he starts to hear whatever he's hearing, those reminiscing about good days and talking about how great his weekend was, those slowly, become less and less, and it's really more about his fears and his insecurities and him not wanting to tell people, or, he didn't want to be judged, and how it was impacting him and stuff like that.
Brett, stand by. We've got to take our final break for this hour. XO Nation, our guest this hour is Brett Skolnick. He is the publisher of Voices or God, the journal of Alan Kerrigan. And you can get a copy of the book Voices or God at www.insidethejournal.com. That's www.insidethejournal.com. And we'll be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
The Earth is under ever-increasing pressure from untenable lifestyles and growing populations. Yet, viable answers seem in short supply. What if I told you there's an ancient form that can empower you to take charge of your life? What if your entire family could be enfolded and supported by life itself, finding safe passage through challenging times? I'm Gwilda Wiyeka, founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Art School, with great news: an upcoming series of leading-edge online affordable classes based in an ancient form of shamanism, easily learned and used by your entire family. Galactic Shamanism, Art of the Ancients, Key to Tomorrow are a series of online adult and children's lessons instructing your entire family on natural law, how to cooperate with and be supported by the powers of the universe. Visit findyourpathhome.com to find these unique and powerful classes.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyeka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Are you curious? Do you want to learn more about how the world works and have fun at the same time? Study coincidences with me, Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD, on my Connecting with Coincidence radio show, here on the XZBN network. Listen to Jungians theorize, statisticians randomize, true believers evangelize, while I categorize. I dance to the rhythm of coincidences. People who experience me see more of them. Maybe something on the show matches a thought in your mind. Let us know. Expand your mind to the weirdness happening around you. Synchronicity spoken here, there, and everywhere. For more information, put Connecting with Coincidence in your search engine and find my website, my social media sites, and my blog.
What is truth? Historically, we viewed things as either being true or false. Now, as we enter a more expansive era, we find the question is not, is it true, but rather, how true is it? I'm Gwilda Wiyeka, host of The Science of Magic Radio, a syndicated, internationally broadcast radio program dedicated to uncovering this ever-expanding truth. Join me daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, as I interview today's leading experts from the fields of science and magic to uncover the hidden truth between the lines drawn in the sand. What we unearth in our discussions is not only amazing, but totally unprecedented. You won't want to miss a single episode. In service to our listeners, past episodes can always be found on our website with our compliments at thescienceofmagic.net.
What's your emergency?
Something's not right in my neighbor's apartment. He's been yelling at night. This has been going on for over a month. I knocked on the door to try to talk to him, but he never answers. I think someone should come over and take a look.
In my opinion, Alan was suffering from dissociative identity disorder, or paranoid schizophrenia.
This man was in direct contact with the Lord. His journal is the evidence and is as important as any found gospel.
I have no idea what happened in that apartment. What I know is this journal is unlike anything I have ever read, and probably nothing like it again. This journal takes us in his mind as he's unraveling. It's one of the most disturbing books I've ever read.
911, what's your emergency?
I'm scared. I think I need help.
Brett Skolnick is our guest this hour, X-Zone Nation. He is the publisher of Voices or God, the Journal of Alan Kerrigan. It's available at www.insidethejournal.com. Brett, did Alan originally come from a small town?
No, he didn't come from a small town. No, just ordinary, suburban town. Nothing, just a regular, ordinary suburban town.
Yeah, no,
thousands of people, so nothing like that.
The reason I was asking because there have been cases that have been discussed in the past where people from small towns who come to the big city often suffer from depression and other effects of the sudden growth, and they find themselves very small in a very big city. So that's why I was asking that. What was the condition of the apartment? What happened in the apartment?
Sure. So when his mother arrived, she was told that the apartment was, it was a pretty, I don't know how to even describe it. It was a pretty dismal scene. So she got in there, it smelled in there, rotten food, cigarettes, the smell of smoke in the air, and there was writing on the wall, so it appeared that he was, writing on the wall as well. There was broken mirrors on the ground, which is one of the things that he did write in the journal, saying he, can't stand looking at these mirrors, he doesn't want to look at himself anymore, so, he must have, smashed the mirror on the ground, and it just looked like he was living in squalor. It was just like not a place that you would want anyone, never mind a loved one, but anyone, to be living in for any period of time. And that's kind of what it was. And, when she got there, she was told that there was a journal that was laying there, and she picked it up and she read it that night, and continued on reading it, and that was kind of what was left from him, to her, more or less. I'm sure that wasn't the intention of it, but
sure.
That was her, her last piece of him.
When did all of this culminate? What do you think the trigger was?
I think so. This is the hardest thing in respect to what Alan was feeling, right? So you hear that Voices or God, right? That's the title. So the question is, was he hearing voices or was he hearing God? And most people will say he was, hearing voices. There was something going on, with his mental health. But for him, he believed he was, hearing a voice that was God. It wasn't a voice in his head. Well, it was a voice, but it wasn't like his conscience or something along those lines. So, when did it all come to a head? I think it really started to come to a head when he went from thinking, at first he thought it was pipes, maybe it was the wind blowing, next door neighbor, etc., and then maybe he thought he had a ghost. But once he kind of made that determination in his head that what he was hearing, what he thought he was hearing, was God speaking to him, is kind of when he, you could easily see through his writings the spiral began. He started going down, and then he tried to come to grips with it. He thought about speaking to people. He almost spoke to his mother, almost spoke to one of his friends, but he didn't. He didn't have the courage. He didn't know what their reaction would be. He was, very nervous that, they would have him committed or make him go see someone. He didn't want to have to, about all this. So, it was challenging for him. That's where I would say it all kind of came to a head, is when he was, when he really made that determination in his mind that God's voice is what he was hearing.
Now, something that I can't understand is if he wasn't brought up in a very religious home, and there was no religious dogma attached to his childhood or to his adolescence or in his life at all, why did he think that God would want to talk to him?
So one of the things that he writes about, and that's one of the things that I was, when I first was told about this, and I was like, that doesn't really make sense to me. But one of the things, he was hearing, a different language, what he perceived to be a different language, and what he thought was Arabic or Hebrew or whatever he could make out what he was hearing. And then he writes about how he Googled it, and it came back as, this is kind of, language that would be sought out to be the Hebrew Arabic. And that's kind of how he really determined, and the way, so instead of him hearing Alan, right, so he was hearing Aline, so stuff like that, there was little snippets into that, and that's really what made him believe that that's what he was hearing, as opposed to just hearing someone say, "Hey, Alan," or "Alan, I'm over here," something along those lines. He wasn't hearing it like that at all. It was something a little bit more. And again, you can only get what you get out of what he writes in there, and that's the takeaway. At least for me and from most people I read, that's kind of what made him believe that that's what he was hearing.
Has the book, or the journal, I should say, been reviewed by any member of the mental health groups or industry? And if so, what have their comments been?
Have not, to my knowledge. This was something that was just recently released, so it wasn't really necessarily sent to anybody in particular, whether it's from somebody with mental health background or somebody with a religious background. So nothing of that sorts at all.
Did Alan have a normal childhood?
Yeah, 100%. He actually talks about it. Regularly. He remembers. He writes. He reminiscing about just playing outside, playing sports, playing tag or hide and go seek when he was younger, and then just hanging out in the neighborhood. Yeah, just regular, ordinary kid that grew up in the suburbs, loving life, playing with friends, hanging out with his family, and enjoying holidays, enjoying just being himself.
What kind of job did Alan have? Was there a lot of stress involved?
Yeah, he worked for a financial institution, just like a cost accountant. So yeah, it was nothing like wildly stressful, but just like any job like that, there's management, and I'm sure he felt micromanaged and deadlines and stuff along those lines. So yeah, he was definitely stressed out from workloads, and he writes about, work was pretty stressful over the past few weeks, but, we reached our deadlines, and then now, things have simmered down a little bit. So absolutely. And then just dealing with working, living on your own, I'm sure, struggling to find a balance between, being yourself and then at the same time being a professional, and then, making sure you have money to pay for your rent and pay for what you want and be able to have that free time. So, yeah, I'm sure all of just life struggles and stresses definitely impacted him in some way.
Were there any love interests that might have gone sour that would have also been a factor in his final demise? No, this had nothing to do. I shouldn't say that. I do not believe so. Okay. From what I read, and there's really no mention of an ex, significant other in any way, shape, or form. Definitely talks about liking girls and going out on dates and meeting a girl and taking her home and stuff along those lines. But there was no broken hearts or anything along those lines. Wow. Hey, listen, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show tonight. Quickly, tell our listeners where some of the proceeds of the book go to, and also tell them how they can get their own copy. Sure. So you can purchase the book both in paperback and electronic book as well on www.insidethejournal.com. You can go to amazon.com and purchase either format, and we are donating a percentage of the proceed to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. That's AFSP. And I just want to thank you for talking about this today. I know it's a pretty heavy topic and a pretty it's a different book than I'm sure you're normally speaking to
people about, but I do appreciate your time. It was great speaking with you.
The pleasure was all mine, and we need to talk about mental health. We really do, because it's out there. It's a fact of life. We can no longer keep it in the closet. It needs to be brought out. It needs to be helped. Money has to go into the mental health industry. And it's because of people like you who are doing what you do. I'm sure that you're doing something wonderful, and I thank you very much for taking the time and joining us tonight.
Thanks so much. You have a good day.
You too now. XZonation for more information, and if you'd like to get your very own copy of Voices or God, the Journal of Alan Kerrigan, visit www.insidethejournal.com. That's www.insidethejournal.com, and we'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.